Imagine this, you're boarding a plane and you've lost your boarding pass and you forgot the seat number that you were assigned to. Then you choose a seat at random, and whoever enters the plane and doesn't find their seat, they just also choose a seat at random so that everyone is going to sit and the plane flies. What do you think the probability of the last passenger or any other passenger finding their own seat is? That is exactly what we will be tackling here at Logic Loops Academy today. "100 people line up to board an airplane. Each has a boarding pass with an assigned seat. However, the first person to board the plane has lost his boarding pass and takes a random seat. After that, each person takes the assigned seat if it is available or if it's unoccupied, and one of the unoccupied seats at random otherwise. What is the probability that the last person to board gets to sit on his assigned seat?" This may seem like a complicated problem because you may immediately think, oh no, there's too many scenarios and possible events to consider because the passengers are also choosing seats at random, so you would never know what's the probability of the final passenger getting their own seat. But it's not really that complicated of a problem. It's one of those problems in statistics that seemed complicated, but rather when you start looking at it deeply, you'll see that it's really not that complicated and the answer may just be a very simple one. Let's look at this way. You only just have to worry about two things, to be honest. Either the person who was the random chooser got their own seat or they got the last passenger seat. You only have to worry about which seat the person who's the current random chooser got. So firstly, the first passenger can be the random chooser at first, and then they can choose any other seat. But if they choose the last passenger seat, you now know for sure that the last passenger will not get their own seat. But if they choose another person's seat, then you know, okay, we move on to the next person to be the random chooser. And also, there's just only two things that can happen in that situation. They can either pick any other person's seat or they can pick the last passenger seat, which is the event that we are worried about in this situation. So if they choose the last passenger seat, the game is over. The last passenger won't get their own seat anymore. But if they pick another random passenger seat, then that passenger will then be the one that is displaced and the new person to have to choose a different seat. And then this now also comes back to that person to now pick between the two options. Either they pick the last passenger seat or they pick any other random person seat, and then that recursive process just keeps on repeating itself just like that. Let's visualize this problem. So we start with the random chooser. This might be passenger 1, this might be passenger K, any other passenger. The only thing you need to worry about is, are they going to randomly pick the last passenger seat, or are they going to pick any other passenger seat? So that means they did not randomly pick the last passenger seat. So if they picked the last passenger seat, then the last passenger will not get their seat, so the game is over. That's one part of the probability. And then the other part of the probability is if this moves on to the next passenger to be the random chooser. So that means this current passenger did not choose the last passenger seat but chose someone else's seat, and then they will then have to be the new random chooser who will then choose between the two options. So this then boils down to being two options in this problem. The person who was the current random chooser up until the n-1 person chose the last passenger seat or they chose any other person's seat. So if they chose the last passenger seat, the last passenger will not get the seat. If they chose someone else's seat, that means the last passenger gets their seat. So this then concludes that the probability of the last passenger getting their own seat in all of this randomness is 1 out of 2. I hope that was very informative and it helped you a lot. This is the kind of problems that we look at here at Logic Loops Academy. Don't stop learning. Take this problem and go play with your friends and see what logic are they going to come up with. Thank you for learning with me. See you next time. Please don't forget to like, subscribe, and also comment down below what your thoughts are and how I can improve on this channel.